If you have the Bible, go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Last week we started talking about John. We talked about how powerful the words that come in your mouth are, and how life and death is in the power of the tongue. How we have to be careful of what we say and how we say things. And the point was to how God was just showing us how we're able to speak things into existence. How when we say things out of our mouth, it actually open up the door for God to come in and make that stuff happen. Because everything started with a word. And pray God, in the midst of that, God began to show me that, that before we can start walking in all that, there's some other foundational stuff that need to be taken care of first. Because if not, whatever we're able to get, we're not going to be able to keep it, because we're not going to know how to keep it. And because our own circumstances and flaws and just stuff that we do, it causes us to be hindered, and it causes us to lose certain things. And so God took me back to Deuteronomy. He began to show me about how all these different things hinder us, and then he began to show us stuff that we got to do in advance and get straight, so we'll be able to receive the blessing that he has in store for us, so we'll be able to walk in it. And I'm going to try my best to get through all of it. But go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, starting at verse 1. Now, how many know that when the children of Israel was in Egypt, how that in our day and time, that represent our lives before we found Christ? And then we always talked about how God took the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt and then took them over into the promised land. And so the promised land represents when we receive Christ in our lives. And I just want you to keep that in mind. Start at verse 1. It says, when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land which thou goest to possess it, and have cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughters thou shalt not give unto his sons, nor his daughters shalt thou take unto thy sons. For they will turn away the sons from following them, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly. Now, well, we got to realize that in the Old Testament, when God was getting ready to bring them into the promised land, he told them to utterly destroy the Ananites, the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, everything else that was possessing the land at that particular time. Well, in today's time, God is not calling us to actually go out and kill other people. But what God is telling us to do is that we got to destroy all the things that are hindering us. See, when we receive Jesus into our life, he came to bring deliverance, to cleanse us from all sin and from all unrighteousness. But the problem is that certain things we decide to hold on to. And see, even though here he began to call them out, the Hittites, the Jebusites, all those things. In this tale time, if we start mentioning one thing, we'll be all day, because let's say we mention alcohol, then we got to mention drugs, then we got to mention premarital sex, then we got to mention cussing and fornicating and all that. So ain't no need to just call it out one thing, but just know that those are the things that are hindering us from receiving the fullness of the thing that God has in store for us. And that's why God said, when you come into the land, when you receive into your life, he said, utterly destroy all that stuff. Because if not, it will be a hindrance and it will be a snare. And it will cause you not to receive everything that God has in store for us. Praise God. Now, and then it goes on to say that those things will actually turn your hearts away from God. Why? Because the Bible says that a little leaven leavens the whole lump. And then on in Matthew it says that when the devil is cast out and he goes seeking for a place, and then he'll say, well, I come back to where I came from. And then he say when he come back in, he brings 7 more demons worse than the one that was ever cast out. And so it makes it 7 times worse than it was before. That's why God said he have to utterly destroy all that stuff and get rid of it. Now look at verse 2. Pray God. And see, listen, but they said 7 nations greater and mightier than they. And see, the stuff that we do, the reason it said that 7 nations greater and mightier than them, because God created us to be adaptable. We can adapt to any situation, adapt to any environment. That's why things comes older and become habits. And it's so hard to get rid of, because our body will adapt to it. So if you started drinking, it ain't going to become an alcoholic, because our body adapt to the drinking. When it comes to smoking, your body will adapt to it. With anything that you do that's sin in the eyes of God, we're able to adapt to it. That's why it says 7 nations greater than that. Now, and it says, and when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, no show mercy unto them. And see, the problem is that the thing that the enemy bring upon us, they're designed to kill us. They're designed to take us out. That very thing that you struggle with the most, it's designed to kill the very thing that God wants to use you in. That's why you cannot make no league with the enemy. That's why you can't hold on to these things. Because that very thing that they're trying to destroy, that's the very thing that God wants to use to bless a lot of people and want to use in you. So that's why the enemy tried to destroy you with that. Everybody understand? And therefore causing our lives to become short, causing sickness and disease to come upon us, to lose faith and all those things. Because we never did what God said to do in the beginning, which was utterly to destroy all this stuff. Because some stuff you just can't play with. And then look at verse 5. It said, but thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars and break down their images and cut down their groves and burn their graven images with fire. In other words, what God is saying that not only do you have to stop and get rid of all this stuff, you got to get rid of anything that even remind you of it. Because if you get saved, you used to smoke crack. You go back to hang around a bunch of people that smoke crack. Eventually, you're going to be drawn back to that. And so that's why we can't play with sin. We can't play with stuff that we used to do in the past. And when God delivers us from a thing, we got to stay delivered. And we got the desire to be delivered. Now, I'm going somewhere, but I just want to set a foundation first. Now, go to Joshua 23 right quick. Joshua chapter 23. Starting at verse 11. Now, it says, take good heed, therefore, unto yourselves, that you love the Lord your God. Else, if you do anywise go back and cleave unto the remnant of these nations, even these that remain among you. In other words, he's talking about even the stuff that you ain't even gave up yet. He said, and shall make marriages with them and go unto them and they unto you. Know for certainly that the Lord your God will no more drive out any of these nations from before you, but they shall be snares and traps unto you, and scourges in your side and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from all this good land which the Lord your God has given you. It said they will become snares. They will become traps. And see, everything that the enemy does, it's just a setup. Yeah. Because he knows if you ever get totally in line with God and in the place that you're supposed to be in God, ain't no stopping to what you can do in God and how God can use you. But see, the problem is because we know the stuff that's in us. So we don't even allow ourselves to only do so much because we know who we are. And so we feel ourselves that we're not worthy of it. And I'm going to prove that in a minute, but first, we got to go to Judges chapter 1. Judges chapter 1. When I say that all to say this, because we always want to talk about